Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's live stream from Wally Garden. My name is Juraci Paixão Crowley. I'm a software engineer and I'm a co-founder here at Wally Garden. And this week we are running a retrospective of 2025. This is our very first year. Wally Garden is gonna complete 1 year in 14 days and a few hours. And we're gonna talk for the next half an hour about what happened this year. So, what were the important things that we've observed on the market? What have we learned? What have we found in the telemetry that we are parsing, that we are looking, that we are observing from our current users? And what are the things to expect for 2026? And today I'm having Yuri, my co-founder here. I think this is one of the first sessions that we have together since the beginning of the year. I think we might have had only one or two sessions. If you are new in this space here, we open a live stream every couple of weeks here on Naughty Gardens channel, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, and we share some information with you about open telemetry, about what is good quality telemetry, some of the things that we've been working on, such as rows, such as Tulip, and some general knowledge about open telemetry as well. Open telemetry is our main business, is our core business, is at the center of our strategy. For those who don't know, Audi Garden is building products that improve the efficiency of your telemetry pipeline. And the first quest that we are working on, the first challenge that we are working on, is improving the quality of your telemetry, because there cannot be an efficient telemetry pipeline with low quality data. High quality data helps everybody in the ecosystem. It helps in reducing the size of your pipeline, so it improves your costs. It also improves your resolution time, your MTTR, for instance, so that you see less noise in your backends. It helps you in your egress costs. It helps you on storage efficiency and query time and even costs as well there. But it also means that when you have purposeful instrumentation, or when you understand what kind of data you are generating, collecting, transmitting, and storing, then you can spot those things that should not be there. You'd be surprised to know what we've found in the data that we are seeing from our users, and we're going to tell you more in the next few minutes. But before doing that, I'd like to call Yuri here to join the live stream with me. Hello, hello. Hey, Yuri.
Hey, hey, yeah, hello everyone. Wow, such a year, right? You just mentioned good things that we discovered that we've found during this year, tackling with telemetry data was a great one. We've basically developed the product. We started Oli Garden again almost 1 year ago, and in this very beginning, we had many projects like we gonna mention today about instrumentation score, Tulip, Insights, Rose that is still on research preview, but it was a great one, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. I'm sure that people are curious about what kind of bad telemetry we found this year. And if you have any questions, if you are watching this here, and if you have any questions, use the chat function in your platform, both on LinkedIn and YouTube. Ask your questions there. We'll try to answer those questions. But what are the types of bad telemetry that we've found this year, Yuri? So can you name a few?
Well, yeah. Well, I just brief because there is a lot of bad telemetry out there. I believe this sentence was the most repeated sentence that I've pitched during this whole year. And also, along of this sentence, I repeated like issues like high cardinality metrics, orphan spans, even PII being leaked, or discovery resource attributes. Like discovery resource attributes is one of the most that we found because we have two options, right? The auto instrumentation or the manual instrumentation. Of course, if you have a small team, if you are just starting in open telemetry, we encourage you to use the auto instrumentation way. But for sure, you're gonna have a lot of discovery resource attributes, or you're gonna have a lot of that a lot of instrumentation that is not really purposeful to your business, But yeah, problems or that we found like this year, again, high cardinality metrics or often spans. Imagine that you use traces to tackle your issues, and you have forgot to propagate your context, and you find a often spans. Actually, I had a live, right, Tracy? I had a live explaining this issue of propagating the context on the Tracy way.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I caught my attention at the very beginning, it might have been, I don't know, June, perhaps even before that, was when we started receiving the first telemetry from our first users. I was so eager to look at that data, and we signed the NDAs. Of course, we got the data there, and one of the promises that we made to people was, we're going to run a report to you every couple of weeks, and we're going to tell you something you don't know about your telemetry. Yeah. Now, I didn't know how true that would be back then, but I started looking at the data from one of our first users, and one thing that I saw was the discouraged resource attributes that I mentioned. I think before we had a different name for that. But more concretely, that was .NET auto-instrumentation, I think that was. It generates, or it adds, as part of the resource attributes, it adds an array of all of the IP addresses and all of the host MAC addresses for that specific host as part of the resource attributes for every single telemetry that is generated from that process. And while it could perhaps eventually make sense for traces and perhaps even logs, it doesn't make any sense for metrics, right? And I remember that I lost one night of sleep on that. I mean, I was so annoyed that we were having an array of IP addresses that represents the state of the machine at the beginning of the process, so not even like what is right now. And that was a huge inefficiency in the telemetry pipeline, right? So it is data that has been collected, stored in memory, transmitted, stored, and perhaps even discarded before being stored. So some of the data stores, they don't store all of the resource attributes, so they just they just drop it. But in some other cases, they are storing that data. And again, this is data that is completely useless, because that's data that is very likely outdated by the moment that that telemetry was generated, right? So the telemetry that has been generated, it is not using the same, like the IP addresses for that machine have changed since then. If you started a Docker container or stopped a container, then the list of IPs has changed already. So that's useless information that's being used. So, and I was so annoyed that we decided to implement that one, a detector for that on the next day. So we implemented that one. But I think the second bad telemetry that I saw that really got my attention this year was when I saw. So I was going back one step, perhaps. I was talking to somebody here from Berlin, and saying some of the things that we were finding in generic terms, of course. And they said, basically, why don't you use the same kind of logic to find PII? And I thought, you know what? That's actually a very good idea. So within a few hours, I was back here at my computer, and I created a new detector for PII. And on the same day, I remember sending a message to our users, some of our users on WhatsApp, saying, I have your JVM trust store password, right? Because some developer on their side thought it would be a good idea to add the JVM trust store password in the command line arguments for their Java applications. And of course, when I was a developer, I would think, yeah, of course, if an attacker has access to the command line arguments of my application, then game over, right? But it's not game over. There is an agent that is running on the same machine that is shipping all of that information to your telemetry backend, and it should not, right? And those are the two things, very concrete things that I remember seeing this year that got my attention the most. So first is the unnecessary host IPs and MAC addresses, and the second one is passwords in general.
I mentioned most generic topics, right? Generic issues like recursionality, offense spans, and so on. But one of those examples, one customer that approached us with this PAI issue, right? Oh, I'm eager to see if I have PAI flowing into my data, and we started analyzing the data and the PAI. They've been doing a good job with the PAI stuff, redacting everything and so on. But we've discovered, this is the beautiful part of the observability, right? We've discovered that the attributes of the open telemetry format, right, have been misplaced. And when we reported this to this customer with the question, do you know that happens? No, I had no clue that was happening on my infrastructure. This is the beautiful part of the observability, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that there's one promise that we so eventually we started doing making a promise to our users that we are going to find something about their telemetry that they don't know about, and that thing is going to surprise them. And I think it is because we gained so much confidence on the things that we're finding that even sophisticated users, I like this term, even sophisticated users were surprised by what we were finding, and we were surprised by what we were finding on their telemetry. Um, I remember that one such user that we had, they opened a few security incidents in 1 week, like multiple security incidents in 1 week, for with the information that we found about, in their telemetry, right? So, but yeah, those are the things that we've been finding since the beginning of the year. But let's move on a little bit on what are the things that we've been seeing in open telemetry, Yuri, that is interesting. So, what are the things that you've seen in open telemetry this year that that made you happy?
Well, I can. I believe it's fair to mention here because we kind of leverage and we kind of open up this issue, this problem of instrumentation quality. This is Weaver. I believe Weaver worth a mention here from our side because those guys maintaining the Open Telemetry project on the Weaver makes, I would say, kudos from our side. And yeah, and also yeah, the investment that the people are doing with the semantic conventions because it's getting open telemetry to be the standard, right? To be a market standard. So with the semantic conventions, you can ensure that you are doing a proper good telemetry, right? We've heard during this whole year a term called data governance. So we yeah, we thought when we started Oligarch, okay, cost would be a problem, but resource and also data governance turn to be the real issue that we are tackling with our customers, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think the same. So Weaver is definitely one of the things that I love seeing the progress this year.
Yeah.
I think so. We had a conversation yesterday on Embrace's channel on the things that we've seen. I think the other thing that I really enjoyed this year was hotel config. Right, so hotel config, and we've been using hotel config internally here at Bodyguard to configure our microservices on how to export data and how to send data out. And I cannot imagine myself using OpenTelemetry nowadays without the config files. Right? So I think this is definitely helping. But what about next year? So what do you expect from OpenTelemetry next year?
Well, next year to the open telemetry side, I will. I was talking with a colleague from one of the observability vendors this morning, and we've been observing this movement of people trying to be more agnostic as possible. You know, like, okay, I'm using any observability provider, but am I using the proper way open telemetry? So one thing that I see from the open telemetry community is providing more value to reduce, let's say, this toil of the process of the open telemetry enablement. So helping organizations during this enablement process to move from the proprietary engines to the proper open telemetry version. And also, of course, I believe at the second semester, I don't know if you felt the same, but we heard this theme of profiling, right? We know that we handle traces, metrics, and logs, but profiling, the people start asking about profiling. Okay, what is the best practices about profiling? How can we evolve on this profiling area?
Yeah, I've been using profiling as well, but I think let's see what the future holds in 2026 for profiling.
Yeah.
I am eager to seeing more open telemetry profiling. I think profiling as a discipline itself is getting more and more mature. That's for sure. We are using that as well internally at Oli Garden. So we get profiles when we have something to optimize. We take a picture, like a profile, a continuous profile, for a window of time, and then we do the optimization, and then we compare. I think this is what modern teams are doing nowadays, right? So not, of course, macro benchmarks are still useful, but the production data is king. Right, so being able to measure before and after, I think that's very valuable. But I think one thing that I think that I'd love to see a development next year in OpenTelemetry is OPAMP. I see quite a lot of people rolling their own OPAMP server. So we just saw this presentation from Nike during Atlanta, KubeCon Atlanta, where they've shown a few things that they've implemented with OPAMP server. And I think for 2026, I really wish that we have an open source OPAMP server implementation that people can just use and have that as a reference implementation, have that as something that people can use and learn how to use OPAMP. Right. So I think OPAMP has a lot of potential, but we need more tools around OPAMP to make it really, really useful.
In one way or another, both terms that we just mentioned, like profiling, the evolution of profiling, and also the evolution of OPAMP, is a good sign of the company getting more mature in the observability area. So if the company starts looking for, okay, I have implemented everything on my side, I'm running my pipeline, my observability pipeline, the data is flowing in, and what should I care right now? Should I see a new signal like profiling, or should I be care about this whole pool of collectors in my infrastructure through a OPAM, right? That's a good sign for me about the company's maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that is not necessarily open telemetry, but is close enough to open telemetry, is instrumentation score that we launched this year with a few partners from the industry, right? So we launched instrumentation score with people from New Relic, people from Dash Zero, people from Datadog, Grafana, and Splunk, and so many other companies, as a way for us practitioners in observability to tell other practitioners what are the things that we think are good telemetry and what is bad telemetry. And based on that, we codified that knowledge behind the instrumentation score project. And now people can use that knowledge, raw knowledge. So we don't have any tools around it in the open source area, so that people can use. But we have that knowledge base already, and that knowledge base is instrumentation score. We have a few toolings or a few tools around open telemetry that can help there. Like we can implement OKA policies in Weaver, implementing some of the ideas behind instrumentation score. But more than that, I think we can use the knowledge base from the instrumentation score in our coding agents, and then have that to make our telemetry better. Right. So I think this is one of the things that I'm very proud that we've done this year, was to launch the instrumentation score, not on our own, but the way that we think things should be done, as a community, as with partners, as with a real community behind it, with people that believe in the same story, not as a magnet, not as a lead magnet for OD Garden. Of course, we want OD Garden to be known as the company that really cares about instrumentation quality and efficiency of telemetry pipelines. But we should not forget that we are part of something bigger, and that something bigger is the ecosystem around observability. And OpenTelemetry belongs to that, and instrumentation quality is a crucial part of that as well.
It's worth to encourage the audience to contribute with the instrumentation score, right? We do an internal movement here at the company to encourage our engineers to contribute a lot with the open telemetry. And also, you that are watching us here through LinkedIn or YouTube, I encourage you to take a look at this knowledge base, as Jurassic described, of the specification, right? What is a good telemetry? What is the specification about a good telemetry? So if you have any idea, if you have, let's say, any real example that could add value to this instrumentation score knowledge base, just drop APR, and it will be sure to get reviewed. And if it does make sense, get merged and enter in this whole instrumentation score concept for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about 2026 for OpenTelemetry. I think there's so many things, like AI is going to be a huge topic for OpenTelemetry in 2026. I think we're only going back one step. I remember mentioning yesterday during a live stream that if I look back in December 2024 and compare the way that I was working back then with the way that I work today, it's totally different, right? So my way of working today with the tools that we have at our disposal, like Cloud Code and Geminis and anti-gravities and Warp and so on and so forth, everything changed. I remember the first prototype of our UI that we had was so bad, was so ugly. And I remember apologizing to people saying, I'm sorry, I'm not a front-end developer, but this is the main idea. I promise you, we are going to get a real front-end engineer to work on that idea. But then we've done a prototype on Hummingbird, on Lovable. And then instead of apologizing to people saying, I'm sorry, I'm not a front-end developer, this is ugly, I was, this is beautiful. Even though I'm not a front-end engineer, this is how our idea is going to be implemented. And people were very impressed. Right. So I think those tools, they can help us move really, really fast. And it reflects on a lot of the work that we've done. So I think only because of those tools, we were able to launch so many products this year. Right. So we were able to launch insights with more than 17 detectors, 17 different ways of finding bad telemetry. We launched Rose as a research preview. So Rose is our coding agent that can tell people what is good and what is bad on their OpenTelemetry instrumentation. We launched a Tulip, our OpenTelemetry collector distribution, a commercially supported distribution of the OpenTelemetry collector. And we have so many more things for the future. But I think going back to the topic of AI itself, I think there's so many things that can be done with AI in OpenTelemetry as well. We are only scratching the surface. Like, there is a proposal for an MCP server for OpenTelemetry in the community. I'm glad that we have somebody from OD Garden, so Nico is also joining that effort and defining how does the MCP server for OpenTelemetry look like? Is it only instrumentation quality? Is it also the configuration for the collector, for the operator? Is it dealing with auto instrumentation as well? So what are all of the things that the MCP server should be doing? There are semantic conventions for AI, like Gen AI semantic conventions. They are happening already. But what are the other things that we could be looking at. And I think we're only going to find about those cases in the future. And 2026 is very promising on that front.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with you. And also using the AI in our favor, like you mentioned, for the semantic conventions validation, or yeah, for how I would say a junior software engineer can check if the code of the instrumentation code doesn't make sense. So we can use this the AI advantage in our favor. In the observability favor.
So, what about the future of Oli Garden for 2026? So, what do we have in our roadmap? So, what can people expect from us?
Well, I kind of mentioned already the first, I would say, the first sentence regarding roles, because yeah, we've been talking about AI, and roles is still on research preview, but it is our AI agent. So by the KubeCon this year in Amsterdam, you're gonna see one AI agent that will act directly on your PR, tell you if, for example, this span name is correct, if you are passing the proper attributes to your span name, or I will actually leave Juracy with this, but there is a concept that we are trying, not trying, that we coined actually, the minimal viable instrumentation, right, Choka?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
what is
not.
this about?
Yeah, it's not. So to be clear, it's not ours. I heard it from one of our advisors.
Yeah.
So I remember that I was end of the day, like we had just um, wrapped up the thoughts around roles, and I remember sending a message to Ben Siegelman. So he's one of our advisors, and I said, Ben, we have this idea here. So we have this idea about roles, and roles is going to be our instrumentation agent, and people can just plug their GitHub repositories or roles into their GitHub repositories, and roles can then judge the instrumentation for that repository and so on. And he shared some ideas. He shared some thoughts. And one of the things that he mentioned was, I really like the idea of minimal viable instrumentation. And I said, oh, hold on. I mean, I'm so gonna steal that. Can I just take this one for ODR? And he said, yeah, sure. So minimal viable instrumentation is definitely one of the things that we're going to tackle in 2026 with rows. The realization there, and this is something that Ben, also visionary as he is, he also saw. And it sounds so obvious in retrospect, but it's one of the things that we don't think until it is explicit, that most of the code bases out there, they are not observable. They are not instrumented with OpenTelemetry. And things could be so much more observable that and if we can provide a tool like Rose that can provide good quality instrumentation to applications without resorting to auto instrumentation libraries, without resorting to eBPF, and then what it means is we can help people to do a high quality instrumentation, just like people would do with manual instrumentation, but with the easy button kind of approach that eBPF instrumentation does, without the downsides of any of those. So we don't have a downside of the huge amount of data that eBPF instrumentation generates, or auto instrumentation for that matter, and without the learning curve that people need to properly implement OpenTelemetry. So we were talking about the config earlier today, hotel config, but understanding how OpenTelemetry config works is a few hours of knowledge on its own, and people don't have time for that anymore, right? So people don't have time to really dig into the documentation, perhaps even some code to see how that all works. And if Rose can encapsulate that knowledge and execute on that knowledge without people having to know about OpenTelemetry, that's a huge gain for the community as a whole. That's a huge gain for the ecosystem. And I think this is one thing that is very tangible that we can take, that we can deliver. And I'm very excited about Rose. And I'm not alone. So whenever we talk about Rose with other people, their eyes, they just get
Yeah.
wide, right? So we can see the joy in their eyes,
Yeah.
because one thing is, observability engineers, they understand the problem with the quality of instrumentation. So when we say, oh, we know what is good and what is bad telemetry, we can tell you where the problems are. Here is PII. Here is a n+1 kind of situation in your code. Here is a trace with a gap, and so on and so forth. They say, sure, of course, but I mean, I don't have time to fix all of those issues. I can tell my software engineers about those problems, but they have so many other things to do. And this is where Rose can come in as well. So Rose is able to look at that specific repository. It calls our API, and it knows what are the problems with that service. And then Rose can go and fix the problems on that service. And that closes the circle, right? So that closes the feedback loop. So we find issues with insights, and then those issues are fixed by Rose. And on the long run, your services, they have better telemetry over and over again, with better cost, with better efficiency. So your telemetry pipeline gets better, gets more efficient over time, without you having to do much of the work. Of course, you probably want to review the PRs that Rose is going to open, but that's already like two steps that was done for you automatically without you having to think about it.
Yeah, and not only and not only insights getting new getting, I'd say, new detection about instrumentation quality, but also working as a guardrail, right, for roles and for, I would say, in place telemetry. So I believe this complementary work, like Jesse mentioned, it will be great. It will be, a very, I'd say, a very good thing to the observability area next year.
Yeah. There are more things coming to the garden that we cannot share at the moment, but
Yeah.
we are. But I'm very, very excited about the new products that we're launching next year. Hopefully, we're going to have some news by KubeCon in Amsterdam. And talking about KubeCon Amsterdam, we are closing our first sponsorships next year, right?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. We're gonna have a booth in the KubeCon Amsterdam
Yeah.
in the middle of the, by coincidence, the tulip season. And we have tulip as well, right? I encourage you, if you are running, for example, your hotel collector country, just take a look in our tulip manifest. And also, if you need any support about running that, just contact us. But talking about Amsterdam, sorry, yeah, I getting too excited when I'm talking about the organic products. But talking about Amsterdam, it's a huge conference. We're gonna deliver talks there. We're gonna have roles, being also actually in production, because again, it's still on research preview, and offering those tools to customer, getting a more efficient observability pipeline, will be huge.
Yeah. But not only KubeCon Amsterdam we are sponsoring, right? So we are closing the first sponsorship is KubeCon Amsterdam. But after that, or before that even, we are also sponsoring Hotel Unplugged.
Yeah.
Right? So Hotel Unplugged is happening at the beginning of February. This is officially the first sponsorship package that we closed. And I'm very proud of that one, because Hotel Unplugged is one of the events that I joined in the past. That was, I think, Detroit during KubeCon, and that was such a great event. That's an unconference style where the community really got together. It's a smaller event, and people that care about open telemetry, a lot of maintainers, but at the same time, a lot of end users. So we got a very good connection between people who are really deep into the community and people who are using open telemetry. So that was a great event. So when we at the governance committee for Open Telemetry, when we decided to pursue another event like that this year, I knew that we would be sponsoring, we would be helping the community in making that event happen. And I'm very proud that not only we were the first sponsor after Grafana, so Grafana is organizing that one or helping organize that one, but we were the first sponsors after Grafana, and I'm proud not only for that, but also for having people from Odi Garden like Leandro to help design the artwork for Hotel Unplugged. So that also shows that we are helping the community the way that we can, right? So even though we are a small startup, only a few people working, not even 2 digits yet, officially. And even though we are at that stage, we can still contribute to Open Telemetry, and we made a point to set the tone. So companies, startups, they cannot say that they cannot help in Open Telemetry because they're a small startup. Like there's no smaller startup than we at the moment that I know of, and we are helping Open Telemetry already. And if we are, you can do the same. Like you can also have a few engineers on your team to assist in Open Telemetry. As I mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation today, Open Telemetry is at the center of our strategy. And that's why it is so important to us to be helping Open Telemetry to help drive Open Telemetry. So of course, Open Telemetry is not a one company project, and it only can go forward when multiple companies, multiple people, multiple end users are helping drive the project as well.
Yeah. And before we pass to the Q&A, I'd like to to do a big thank you for our engineers. Without you guys, it was impossible to have a product, to have Holy Garden. Holy Garden is basically you, is basically your effort that you made during this whole year. I know that some people will start sooner this year, later this year, but all of you contributed somehow to Holy Garden be where we are right now. Okay, so a big thank you for you. And
Exactly.
Q&A, do you have any questions in the chat? Let me check it out. I don't know. It's a retrospective, I don't know if anybody has some questions, but anyway.
No, I think that's what we have for today. I think perhaps a quick word before we close for the day. I'm very proud of everything that we achieved this year. So we launched a few products, or at the very beginning of the year, we were able to convince people that this idea was worth investing in. We got companies, not only traditional VCs, investing in our company, but also very good or very expressive angels. And among our investors are also companies in the observability area that saw our proposal as beneficial to the ecosystem, right? So those are backends, and it's very clear to us that we are not going to go for the backends. Like we are not going to store data. We're going to stay true to the Open Telemetry philosophy. We don't create alerts like on the services. Like we are not a backend. We don't have the visualization for telemetry itself. We are a company that cares about the efficiency of the telemetry pipeline. And because of that, we care about the quality of instrumentation as well. So the quality of the telemetry itself. So I'm very proud that we were able to get started with this idea at the beginning of the year. I'm very proud about the team that we were able to assemble. So during our first offsite here in Berlin in June, I remember that we were having a discussion going back to the hotel, and we looked at each other and said, yeah, we have a team. And then in Lisbon, a few weeks ago, we had our second offsite. And then the same kind of comment came out, but it wasn't we have a team, is we have a dream team. Right?
Yeah.
And we have people that are very, very good at our side, people who believe in the same mission. People who really see the benefit and people who are taking a brave step in joining such an early stage startup, because they believe in us, right? So they believe in what we are doing. I'm also very proud about our first users, right? So we were able to convince some of the big names in fintech or traditional financial institutions in countries like Brazil, that we are trustworthy enough for them to send us their telemetry so that we can tell them what is good and bad about their telemetry. So past the first step, I think we could prove that we are worth it. Like we sent them good information about their telemetry, and that surprised them. And looking back now in 17th of December 2025, I can see that we've done a lot of things in all areas, and there's so much more to do. There's so much more to execute, and I can't wait for 2026.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So am I. Yeah, looking forward to next year. Thank you,
All right,
guys.
folks.
Yeah, see you next year with a lot of updates about Holy Garden, new products. Yeah, yeah, new updates, new challenge, observability will be amazing next year.
If you are curious about what we talked about today, what are the plans for the future, get in touch with us. I'll be very happy to share our plans with you and to have you as one of the first users of the new products that we have.